Well, anyhow, so welcome, you guys. This is part of our Scaling Skills speaker series. I'm Terry Dockery. People call me Doc. I have a doctorate, which makes me, of course, Dr. Doc Dockery. We're in the middle of our CEO roundtable meeting, and so be aware I'm recording this today. Mute yourself if you're not talking, please. So we'll keep the background noise down for the recording, but jump in whenever. In our group, we help each other double our revenue and have fun doing it and enjoy life in general. So here's Nadine. Excellent. So they so let me know if you want to know folks who might be a good fit for our group. So our speaker today is Mohinish Sinha. So most importantly, he's the brother of one of my best friends for the last 15 or 20 years, the D. And career-wise, he's a partner at Deloitte who focuses on organizational development internationally. And I'm going to be asking him about best business practices that he's seen, and hopefully we can glean some nuggets of wisdom for our businesses. So that's the basic plan, and let's go. So welcome, Mohinish. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking time out. What time of day is it there, by the way?
Well, it's in the night, 9:30. I normally would just about get ready to sleep, but this was very important, so I'm here.
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm glad you can join us. So, just say a word or two about your training and experience for the folks here.
Sure. So thank you for inviting me, Terry. And good afternoon, everyone. Delighted to be part of this. I actually did something like this a few years ago with you, Terry. At least I joined one of your meetings.
Right.
I don't know if you remember, way back.
That was in
we
person.
could meet in person. That was in person,
yeah. Back in the
day. So I'm delighted that I can actually join in and speak to all of you. So my training. I'm a management consultant, work in the area of human, capability and human development, but specifically in the area of organization design and helping organizations get better versions of themselves. And however I trained for it over the years, I've had multiple experiences. I've trained as an organization process consultant. Perhaps some of you, Gene, probably you're familiar with that. The T groups and all of that. I've also worked as a coach. I'm a certified executive coach. I am a certified team coach. So I work with executive teams as well as intact teams to help them really get better at what they do. And I've been doing this across more than 20 countries over the years and over about close to 27, 28 years. So been around for a while. And I have two other experiences that makes me pretty qualified because I've run my own businesses, two failed startups. One I really lost a lot of money. The second one I just about kind of got back with some amount of money. So it was a great experience learning from, really trying to go and, do what you preach to others. And that was a fantastic experience as well. I'm also an executive or a partner in the firm. So I get a chance to work within the firm as well around initiatives to help our own organizations get better. So yeah, that's a summary of my training and experiences.
Excellent. Well, now I know in talking with Nadine, I know she speaks 3.5 languages. She says she doesn't remember all of her Swahili. So how many languages do you speak?
Exactly the same, 3.5.
So that would be English, Hindi,
and half of Swahili, and there's a half of Tamil, and and some of the Indian languages. I know half of each of those, enough to get by in those cities whenever I travel there.
Well, yeah, their dad worked internationally, and they went to high school in Swahili.
In Kenya, yes.
Yeah, that'll get your attention. Well, having said that, so what your current role? What do you like most about it? What's the most fun part, the most gratifying part?
I think the most gratifying part is the opportunity to work with organizations for their aspirations to become the best version of themselves. And I say this, it sounds like a cliche, it sounds like a grandiose statement, but there are organizations and teams and individuals kind of wish to be really good at what they do. In what they do, and I get a chance to work with them on that. I love that opportunity to do that, and when they are willing to really try hard to make that happen, nothing gratifies more than that.
Right. I know everything can't be great. What do you like least about your current role?
Uh, so the difficult ones are where you get, well, for a want a better term, you're not told exactly what's the reason of the work that you wanted to do. You're told one thing, but it's actually for something else. And many a time, the purpose is to, oh, we need to make sure that board knows we have done something towards it. You say, okay, come on. If you told me before it was just to make sure that there is a checkbox process, I don't really enjoy those situations, but I've become wiser now, so I try and figure it out much before, as much early as I can. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't quite enjoy those ones.
Well, I was thinking of my newsletter this week being basically about honesty, which is what would happen if all the business people showed up and they were actually honest with each other? It would be a way different. It would be a way
Amazing.
different experience because I'm not a fan of blanket honesty. There are times when you need to do what's wise, but I think it's really interesting to me. Early in my career, I didn't understand how powerful politics and personalities were, and actually what was actually going to happen versus what people said they wanted to
Of
Jim
happen.
Carrey
course.
starred in a movie about that, Terry, as
Oh
you might
yeah,
recall.
liar, liar.
There
Oh
you
yeah,
go. There you go. So
yeah.
now, in our discussions, I think we've agreed if the true end goal of life is to be happy, right? And having enough money is one of the major sources of happiness. And then being good at business is one of the ways to have enough money, right? So if that's sort of the end goal, what kind of best business practices that would be of interest to small to medium business owners have you seen? I mean, what are the things, the principles that you teach really that you think would be of interest to these folks?
Um, One of my big privileges has been that I've actually got to work with organizations who created happiness as their what should I call it? The competitive edge. Uh, that's the edge that they bring out in the marketplace. And these organizations are not only in India and different parts of the world. They are obviously in minority because it's not the common design that really goes out there because it's hard to build. Uh, and for this, I will outline a few principles that I have seen that these organizations put in place. And I'll use an example of an organization that I actually got to work with in India in setting it up. Unfortunately, the founder passed away many years ago, in the course of when we were designing this. But this was an extraordinary organization, and I see the same blueprint being applied to organizations across the globe, including in the US, having seen and studied some of the organizations there. So I'll try and sort of pull some of these principles out. So the first principle I would say that these organizations tend to do really well is designing the organization ecosystem as a way to scale up human energy, if you like. It sounds a bit of a gobbledygook, but you know what I mean. It's not designed to just serve, to make pens or jackets or whatever else you do, but it's really for a larger purpose, and people are engaged in that process. Patagonia, all of you will relate to that example. People don't work there to make jackets, for example. They work there because they do believe their own purpose around uh, the environment and creating the right footprint in the environment, and they believe that's the way to do it. The organization that I'm talking about, Barbecue Nation, is a fine dining restaurant, and when it got started many years ago, the founder really wanted to build an organization not around this idea of how do I get better market share, and how do I make great barbecues and make sure that I am the best. But really built it around this idea that happy employees bring happy customers or happy guests, and happy guests make happy employees. And he believed in that premise and this principle. And he designed his entire organization on that premise. So he built it, wrote out the purpose in such a form. He built the two elements that he would track would be how well are his employees doing, and how are their customers doing on a day-to-day interaction in each of his restaurants. He had 30 of them by the time he died. And he would track them on a regular basis and make sure that they are, people understand it and people can work around these ideas. So, for example, designing around that. And he made sure that everyone understood that we would get there not by, driving out or putting customers into the restaurant, but finding a way to make the restaurant so good and so that experience so enjoyable that people go out and talk about it and bring other people into the restaurant. So he managed to create it, and I'll talk a bit about it in a minute. But that was the core design, that how do I, enlist everyone to this purpose that I spoke about. So that's the condition one, if I like. The second condition is, again, it's about designing friction, for growth. And again, what I mean by that is that it's about focused on, so to back it up, people get happier when they get better at something, right? They don't get happier when you remove friction from their work or their life. In fact, if you remove all friction, people become entitled everywhere, right? People expect everything to be, slick and smooth and absolutely no objections or obstructions around them. But when they have friction that is designed for designed for helping them get better, people enjoy it. And provided what they have to get better is aligned to what my purpose is. So again, in this organization, it was about how do you solve problems so that these problems do not recur? And that was a one single line brief that every employee was focused on. And they recognized very soon that if I had to solve this problem that doesn't recur, it meant two things. I need to be able to figure out a way to work with the others, because there's no problem that is unique to one individual. It's a team problem. It's a team sport. So how do I get to work with the others and figure out my problem? And the second thing was, it's an iterative process. You're not going to solve it just by saying, oh, these are the 5 things we've done and we're out. We're going to watch examine the data, see how it applies, how it improves, get better at it again and again and again. And that's what it did. It started enlisting everyone in the organization towards it. And people got really good at it. In fact, one such example that I can talk about in this is that the teams would get together and talk about the problem in such a way that they would be delighted to even own up a problem. So if something in the restaurant went wrong, maybe the food arrived at the table somewhat cold, and they got a complaint from the guests, the team members there would own up to the problem individually, and they said, no, I made this mistake. Maybe I should have planned it better, and maybe I should have brought that little faster, and so on and so forth. So when they get down into examining the problem, they would sort of all raise their hands and then get together and say, okay, so how do I actually make sure that doesn't recur? And they would learn some tools for doing so, and so on. So it's, again, building design which is around helping people get better, and helping get better by solving something, right? Designing friction. And the third piece, which is incredibly important, is by design having a reflective cadence across the organization at all levels. So again, in this organization, what it would happen is at the business head level, reporting into the CEO, these guys would catch up every month. And their day-long meeting would run in a very, very different form than typical business meetings run. They would spend precisely 15 minutes looking at the numbers of where they have reached. And they don't really care much about it because numbers are there. We all know it. There's nothing more to be told in it. And if we are not doing well, we knew about it before we came to this meeting. That's not the real issue. The real issue is, what are the things that we have done to help us get better at these? How are we bringing more customers to our organization? What is repeatable in what we have done? So, the common practice we saw was where business head would say, "Oh, Mr. CEO or whatever, that we have made great numbers this month." And his question, he would be mostly unimpressed, and he would say, "Okay, that's great. Why do you think you made those numbers?" And most often it would be because there was some festival going on and people just generally showed up to the restaurant. So his response used to be, "Well, you didn't do anything specifically to get those numbers. What is it that you're going to do next month when there's no festival to be able to get that? How are you thinking about getting customers in a different way? How are you solving that problem?" And that's what allowed people to see that what's expected of them is to create conditions to resolve, so that guests can come in, guests can experience, and guests can have an outstanding experience while they are there, and they go and talk to 5 more people about it, and then they come back. So that was a design of a reflective cadence. They would have a similar reflective cadence in each restaurant. So every day for 2 hours after lunch and before dinner, everyone, all hands meet, they would sit down, do absolutely look at all the problems that they had in the previous sessions, the lunch that had just gone by, the dinner the previous night. They look at all the numbers, they look at all the data, they start examining all the things that went wrong, and they start systematically work on it. And what was remarkable there, Terry, is that none of these guys, well, majority of these guys haven't gone to a senior school, right? Because they're servers, and they're doing jobs which is of a cleaner and so on. But they learn to raise their game around how to think around these problems. And what I discovered for me, it was that these qualities are beyond school knowledge, education. It's so innate in us as human beings. So, example of occasion. So these 3 things about creating a design that amplifies human energy, an environment, the design of your organization, which is working around driving friction, which drives capability and purpose. And third is reflective spaces. And when you have these 3, chances are you're able to create conditions where people are working for the purpose, for meaning, than just delivering those numbers again and again. Numbers are the result rather than anything else. So sorry, long tirade on this, but hopefully this I was able to convey what I had in mind. But I'd love to hear any questions you may have or comments.
Yeah. Oh, a great example. Great. And yeah, I don't know. I worked as a waiter, 45 years ago, but I worked as a waiter for 3 years. And you're talking about a business where you get feedback immediately on whether
Yeah,
you've succeeded or not. It really is a great learning environment because folks will let you know pretty quickly and
yeah.
you can
Oh,
correct it. So I think that was a great example. Questions, folks? You guys, did this inspire any questions for Mohinish?
I have a question. So
hi,
these are
Katie.
great. These are awesome. Hi. It's really awesome to think about these things. But on the one where people come together to talk about what went wrong with the idea that you're just going to solve the problem so it doesn't recur. So I
Right,
have people that work for me. Some people just are going to take the fall. They're just going to take the blame, whether or not it's theirs or not. So how do you get people to if to not cover for each other? It's more than that. It's not just that they're covering for each other. They're just going to say they're going to own up to their part in the problem, and it
right,
maybe is not even the biggest part.
right, right. That's a great point, Kathy. And I've seen that when the reason why some of these happen is that there is an opportunity for the organization to create a safe space where everyone can be able to express themselves. And that's not an easy one to do, and it requires a fair amount of role modeling to say what good looks like. So I'll give you an example where a leader managed to create such an environment with her team. And the way she went about is we're doing two things. One, calling out the expectations around how what she wanted the team to do. This was a digital sales team, a digital marketing team, if you like, for the telecom. And the expectation was that we had to hit those numbers, but we're going to hit those numbers if we figure out a way to learn to design our solutions rapidly, pricing solutions rapidly. And that's going to happen if we were to work together and not working as departments as we typically do. And so she collected her group of people and she spoke to all of them together in terms of the expectations and expectations of working together. And that alone did not do it. So she was part of those meetings. Maybe she would, do the retro, as they used to call it, reviewing the numbers and seeing what went wrong, what could have been better. And in those conversations, she would emulate or encourage people to open up and speak out. And it took her some time. And in my experience, I saw with her, I saw that it took almost like 6 months for people to feel comfortable enough to open up. And we also saw that, one of the few times we said, why don't you step out and don't join this meeting? Let's see how these guys do it. They went promptly back to their old ways. So we realized it's still not synced in, and it's still not sort of part of the fabric. But over a period of time, around 6 months' time or so, it became the way they worked. It was hard, but people started feeling that indeed, when they each of them raised their hand, it was not just absolutely fine. People actually welcomed it, and they would encourage others to be able to do that and call it out. And wherever we had people who would do what you said, she would acknowledge the individual and say, "Look, I see you do this, but in my opinion, that's not exactly how it happened." And she would back this person up. So it was a bit of a hard work. But if I look at the principles, it was a lot around clarifying what good looks like, and then helping the team practice what good looks like in real time. And in this case, it took longer. It was a large organization. This was a smaller team within it. But my sense is in smaller organizations, smaller teams, perhaps it can be quicker or faster. But the principles remain the same.
Right. Well,
Thank you.
the way I sell it, Mohinish, it's like when I'm trying to convince leaders to be a little more open to feedback, that sort of thing. And I said, if your people aren't being honest with you, then you're making decisions based on bad data
Yeah,
because you don't
absolutely.
really know what's going on with the business. You don't know what levers to pull, but it's a whole lot easier said than done.
Of course. Of
It,
course.
it takes some doing. I see Charles Weems is about to ask a brilliant question. I'm not sure what it is, but
No, I don't have a question, but I'm agreeing with you because that's a situation that I have been fighting through. Is that I'm assuming everything in the organization has been going well and everybody's yes and singing about butterflies and peaches, and then
Yes.
one incident happened and everything blew up, and so then people wanted to chime in. Well, it had been going like this whole time, and I'm like, but I've asked y'all what. I thought that I had created a situation like what you're talking about to where people can speak up and say when there are issues or different things like that. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm agreeing because I've lived it.
Oh, yeah. Now, it is hard. It is hard to create that. And the thing with that, I see that what's difficult is that at some point, founders or CEOs or leaders come to a situation where they are put up in a situation that they have to now call out something that they felt they made a mistake. They took a wrong call. That's the hard part, right? That and many of them, many a time, they hold back in acknowledging that, and people see it, and and then becomes a situation that it is hard to stay truthful. And still to call out a mistake because it could even be a mistake that I may have made. Uh, but examples I've seen where even the CEOs or the founders have called it out saying, hey, you know what, I thought this is the way it would work, but it didn't. I read it wrongly, and let's go figure it out, or figure out a way to come back out of it. And more often than not, the organization, the team responds very, very positively to that, because we are all human, and that's the design of an organization. It's a human organization. Nobody expects you to be perfect, but somehow, I guess, our own training in the way that we have all grown, uh, many times our role models look like flawless, and they seem to be perfect in every possible way. And the books we read, we always read of people who are perfect in every possible way, but the reality is not quite so, right? So we're all human, and we make mistakes, and everybody can make mistakes.
Well,
A phrase that I underscored and is really resonating with me is one you used early in the discussion, which is human energy. In response to, why focus on happiness and this sort of thing. And that is really number one. It you don't hear it in business
Mhm.
speak, and
Yeah.
and so it has an authentic ring to it. But it's so true because it's what differentiates the outcome from other ways of encouraging accountability and problem solving and consensus building and all of that. These things can be tedious at times.
Of course.
And but if folks are, you know, have that high energy based upon, uh, you know, the happiness meter, so to speak, and
Yeah.
all of that,
Yeah.
and that there's room for that. I see it as being superior in its resilience and in its consistency and all kinds of good outcomes that can ripple off of this. So
Oh, of
thank you
course.
very much. You had me at hello on that one.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
well, yeah, Mohinish, as one of the leaders of my family, I've gotten the feedback from my children that I don't take feedback very well, and I'm sure they're mistaken because that couldn't possibly be a flaw.
Of course.
So I can relate to what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Any other question? We can run if you have the luxury, Mohinish. We can run a few minutes over if there is that, or do you?
I'm absolutely fine. I'll be delighted. Yeah.
And Nadia is going to say something brilliant. I see. I'm seeing her mind working. She's we got it. Any other questions that come to mind as you guys have listened to what we're talking about? Okay. Last thing, if uh, we're going to paint with a broad brush stroke here. American business culture, and I know it's all over the place. It depends on the leader and the company and the culture, yada, yada, yada. If you were, from what you've seen business practices all over the world, if you were making a suggestion for kind of American business culture, is there anything you'd say, hey, you guys ought to tweak this and you'd get better business results, more happiness? Anything that jumps to mind when I say that?
Oh, well, this is going to be a tough one, because frankly, the world has taken a lot of your systems. So, American, as we see it, is probably the strongest entrepreneurial ecosystem built, ever, right? It's just the most solid of all. You see organizations with speed, innovation, and great achievements. And so what has happened as a consequence of that? The world has taken up your energy. So we see those examples in India as well, who run with similar models in China. Have worked in Australia, in Japan. Thankfully, still somewhat different than the US. Uh, and I think that's what defines the US. But there's something else that defines that, in my opinion, and you're in a better position to correct me on that, is that there is a very high emphasis around individual drive, right? The language of war as a metaphor for you know winning your goals and hitting your sales numbers is actually coming from the American lexicon, if you like. That's how at least I've understood it, and I see these in boardrooms in India, in China, in UK, not Europe, in UK for sure. certainly in the US and American companies that I get to work with. And I think that is so this whole idea of individual heroism, right? I think there's a hallmark of that. And my view is that that has got the US organizations so far. You have built some amazing organizations. But within that, I think in the age of complexity that we are in, and everybody, I'm impressed that you didn't ask AI, because that's the first question we hear these days. But AI, that brings in the necessary complexity as well. And complexity means you have to rely on the team to win rather than the individual going out and winning, because the complexity you don't even know what problems are you solving. So I think there's an opportunity for dialing down the war metaphor and bringing the idea of relying on teams. And it's not that what I'm saying is unique and strange to your environment. I mean, there are Patagonia, I'm a great fan of. I try and study Netflix, Microsoft under Satya Nadella, the newer avatar, if you see, Chick-fil-A, and so on. So these are the organizations who have recognized this idea of working in teams and working with the idea where the teams are superior to an individual drive. And teams will always win. Research after research points out that teams are far more intelligent what an individual can be. Of course, there are certain right conditions needed for doing so. So I think that's one area.
Do you think Delta would be in that crowd as far as part of their success?
I think so. I think they are in that direction, but I haven't studied well enough to be able to comment. So maybe you have examples and ideas around it. But whatever I've studied, they seem to recognize these dimensions. Right.
Yeah, with Delta, I was just for us in Atlanta and who are of age like me, to just see how they had built it and then lost it and then rebuilt it and then had to keep finding ways of bringing it higher and higher. I found it to be a local interest story.
Oh, indeed. Southwest Airlines example as well. Great example. Done the same thing. It's about fixing attention on the purpose and then getting everybody to rally around together as a team rather than focusing on what individual engineers can do or support staff can do. So indeed, this whole shift from that individual heroism is probably the way, and in a complex environment, that would be a critical piece to get right. I think reflective spaces is the other piece that I would say that I don't see. There's a high. I get to, one of my privileges is I get to sit in some of these business meetings where teams are discussing their results and they're figuring out, okay, what to do about it. There's still high reactionary response to results as and when those results occur, rather than taking a reflective step much before in advance, because your results are not going to be a surprise. You saw the lead indicators of that result probably 3 months before the results actually happened. But if organizations invested in building a reflective space there, and what I mean is just figuring out that data and looking at it and asking each other, hey, what's going on? Why is it the way it is? And what can we do to fix it? Much earlier will get us the result much better. So that reflective process, again, it started off with Jack Welch many years ago when he instituted this, but then it didn't really get adopted subsequently by many organizations. But I see Japanese organizations, Toyota, for example, is entirely built as a learning organization around reflective spaces, for example. Ford tried to do that as well in some of these operations, and they had some great results with that. So I think these are the sort of the balance that needs to be put in to balance out the drive, the speed, the innovation, so that there is some semblance of stepping back, looking at it, getting the team together, and using the wisdom of teams to solve it is the way I would recommend.
Sure. That's great. I mean, and thank you for confirming all my biases. You, sir, you are the man. But any final questions before we let Mohinish go to sleep? Yeah. Okay, well, listen, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been lots of fun for
My
me.
pleasure.
It's what you've said that is valuable. It resonates for business owners at any level. The principles are applicable. So thanks again, and I hope it won't be too long before I get to see you in person again.
Indeed, for sure. And thank you for inviting me, Terry. I really enjoyed our conversation. All the very best, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care.
Good night.